Good morning and welcome to Angel Wallace Productions and God's Grace on Thee. Let us continue on with the Phoenix Journal's Pre-Flight Instructions, Chapter 35, January 17th, 1992, New Age Nonsense, Part 3. Greetings, precious Druthea. I am Sananda, Jesus, Isu, Emmanuel. I come in light and service to Divine Holy God, our Radiant One Creator. I will continue this series on the nonsense and misperceptions which permeate the so-called New Age movement. It is not always necessarily that the cliches and wise statements made by ones are not true. It is often that the so-called New Age teacher, speaker, has the interpretation of opinion, which is either not completely understood or not communicated correctly. And there are ones who simply intentionally manipulate the teaching through false interpretation to confuse and mislead others. You each are learning the lessons of discernment through reason and communion with God within you. The problem for each of you to overcome is allowing someone else to think for you and believing another because they sound like a sincere and wise expert. Remember, believe in God, for example, is not the same as knowledge of His omnipotent and guiding presence within you. Belief is still an opinion, which may or may not be correct. It is not knowledge that you have achieved until the proof of His power and presence is earned by your desire to know and your personal efforts and actions which demonstrate or create that desire. Now, I will quote a statement made by many, especially by those studying under Eastern masters. I want you each to think about it, if you have heard it, and what it meant to you, and what it means to you now. Then please continue reading. Whatever you focus your attention on, you exchange energy with, or draw that energy to you. Now I will tell you how many New Agers have interpreted this statement to refuse taking responsibility. If the information which is at first given to them is interpreted by them to be negative, meaning producing within self-emotions of fear, guilt, pain, anger, etc., then they feel that they must not give their attention to it. And somehow they are then absolved of negative thinking, and all will be beautiful and harmonious in their life. Nonsense. Now, I will explain to you how it is, not how many of you wish it to be. First of all, in this process or school of learning, you are presented with your lessons in all situations and information that you focus your attention on. Secondly, every moment that you think and live, you are exchanging energy with other energy, because all is light energy carrying various waveform frequencies. And when you have thought of concerned for a loved one, you are exchanging energy by your thought. When you respond to the news that a war has started, you have exchanged energy with that information. For the information carries its own energy, and your response to it is a lesson for you. Now, if you decide the information about government corruption or robotoids contained in the Phoenix Journals is not true simply because it scares you and you just can't believe it, know that your opinion of belief does not change the truth of the information. So if you discount or deny without further researching, then you are not facing the fear which exists inside you and is up to you to understand and release. Ignoring it only means putting off the lesson, which will be repeated until resolved. I will give you a simple bit of wisdom which you can rely on in your attainment of self-knowledge and mastery. If you are frightened, angered, or guilt-ridden about any information or situations which come to your attention, you can be sure that you have hit a hotspot problem area in self that you must focus your energy on, for the lessons are being presented for you to process and release. Know, too, that if you draw to you anything that frightens you, the fear is inside you, not in the person or information which seems to cause the fear. You feel threatened in some or many ways, and usually your fear is some sort of loss. That fear or root of fear is what you each need to get in touch with. Chelas, it is not bad to feel the fear. It is simply a temporary illusion barrier of growth and a lack of trust in God within you. The fear, the guilt, the anger, they're symptoms of the deeper feeling of disconnection with God and the feelings of powerlessness and helplessness that accompany that belief in separateness. Let the fear be a warning flag to you. Instead of ignoring it and hoping it goes away because you don't focus your attention on it, face it squarely. Ask the Father within you to show you the root of this fear and what you must do and know to understand it and release it. And anger can become a very positive flag as well. If you face it and understand its cause within you, and then transmute it into action and passion to serve God of light, to bring balance to the circumstance which upsets you. And what do I mean by transmute? The dictionary says to change in nature, form, or quality. Transform. You each have the power within you to transform or change any energy, any emotion, any situation or circumstance to bring balance to self and or the circumstance. Well, how do you do that? By your desire to change self to be like unto God and know Him within you. You will be shown the course of action to take to serve God in honorable reflection, if that is truly your intent. The way will be open, for the kingdom of heaven is within you. And when you truly awaken to your inner spiritual knowledge, you can and will accomplish anything you set your mind to, for that is what you have given your attention to. No energy controls you unless you allow it, and you can transmute any thought. Many of you do it all the time and just don't know it. For example, if you were raised to be bigoted against black people, and then you learn and know that the bigotry was wrong and why, you have successfully transmuted that energy. And what about abortion? Haven't many of you, including his beloved scribe, had a dramatic change of understanding regarding abortion? She used to feel it was the right of the woman to do so as she chose. Now, Dorothea knows why abortion is murder. A woman who is truly moral and spiritually responsible would not choose to have a selfish, lustful swing in the sack, which she knows could allow the creation of an unwanted child. Very few parents, counselors, or teachers even talk about abstinence and personal responsibility to young boys and girls before they decide to experiment with sex. Well, except, of course, to hand them rubbers and birth control. Now think about attitude, which is your state of mind, behavior, or conduct regarding some or any matter. Are you not each continually working on attitude adjustment? Such as not becoming depressed and paralyzed by your world circumstances, and instead choosing to be moved into action to change it. Not becoming personally offended by ones who refuse to understand the truth and attack you personally for bringing it to their attention. So is it not this kind of attitude adjustment you ones achieve a form of transmutation? Are you not desiring to change the form of the original thought in such a way which brings godly balance to self and or the circumstance? Every journal that we write, every document that we produce is designed specifically to transmute belief in lies to knowledge of truth. The catch is, only those who choose to know the truth will achieve transmutation of the negative lie and become free. Otherwise, many, many ones will become trapped in the web of energy of the lies which the master deceiver has so cleverly woven to trap and control God's people in the physical dimensions. Soon many of you, if not already, will welcome the opportunities to know self and make necessary attitude adjustments. It is not easy or necessarily convenient or fun. It is a birth of you into God-knowing power, and the nature of the labor is the choice of each. Does this mean that if you focus your attention on something which brings you inner joy, that there is no lesson? Of course not. As long as you focus your attention on knowing the truth, and you are not just hiding in New Age fantasy and nonsense, the joy is well earned. You must live your life and seek enjoyment and celebration of love, family, and sharing with beloved friends. And when you find inner balance, the understanding and achievement of doing your life's work and mission will bring you as much joy as well. Remember, your process of growth and self-God discovery as a human will not be easy, painless, or without confusion, depression, or despair. It is designed with great illusion of pitfalls and struggle, etc., for you each to learn about and overcome. You are challenging your soul growth and are in the process of graduating and moving on to a higher stage of spiritual development than that which you left when incarnating here. And you will find that every experience, regardless of your perception of failure or success, is valued tremendously as bringing you closer to God, if that be your goal. Sometimes even the perceived most negative circumstances or situations you've experienced become the catalyst for the finest and most beneficial lessons of self-mastery. And many of you, if you think back, came from the most difficult of childhood experiences and have developed incredible and impeccable strength of character because of these experiences. Most of you, admittingly, would not change a thing about your past, for you know it has brought you to this point of knowing and service. Some of you may feel crippled still from your past abuse circumstances. Know that you will be crippled as long as you choose, and you will release the pain and know the lesson just as soon as you choose. Responsibility? Yes. It is yours to transmute the experience into growth of self, God, knowledge. And when you are ready, the release and knowing appears effortless. It is much like instant or overnight successes. There's not such a thing. For most do not like to speak about the 5,000 failures they felt and lived before succeeding according to their desire. And so it is. Let us close this document, and I trust that I have left you with much to ponder, which will bring you closer to understanding your processes of life. Thank you, precious Dorothea, for your service. I treasure this time we have had together, and thank you for your attention. I am Sananda, one with God in His service of love. Be at peace and walk gently with one another. Salut. Chapter 36, March 2nd, 1992. Understanding Insecurities and Self-Esteem. Greetings, precious Dorothea. I am Sananda, and I come in service to Holy God of Light, and to you, my brethren, on earth shone. I am pleased you have called me, Chela, to write and share with your brethren. It has been a most difficult period of time sequence for you, Drew, as well as many of you in this core circle. For you readers, Drew's beloved cat has just jumped into her lap, which happens nearly always when she sits to write for any of us. This is confirmation for Drew in that Kitty is most aware of your presence and Drew's centered quality. When I speak of difficult time sequence, in this case, I am referring to emotional impact. When each of you find yourselves responding from your emotional aspect, often you will feel quite insecure and filled with doubts and perhaps confusion. Poor self-esteem is developed when you become stuck in the habit of reacting to circumstances from a point of emotional insecurity, which you have not yet been able to resolve or find the cause of. Also, poor self-esteem is developed when you believe the opinion of others who have made harsh judgments about you. Self-esteem itself, as defined in your dictionary, simply means a good opinion of oneself. And when I refer to this term, I am not speaking about ego, self-centered, superiority opinion of self. I speak of self-respect and self-honor, just as you would respect and honor others. Let's explore the root cause of insecurity. Insecurity defined: troubled by anxiety and apprehensiveness, threatened. I rather like this definition in that it describes the feeling one feels and then gives a general cause, that being feeling threatened in some way. Now, what you must find is what it is you feel threatened of losing, because the foundation of your insecurity rests on an illusion of perceived loss of something you perceive you don't want to lose. And most often, Chelas, your view of self is built by your altered ego and therefore is easily shaken down and threatened. You can never lose anything that is real. If a friendship and or marriage is built upon real love and caring, which is truly mutual between the sharing parties, there is nothing which can tear down that foundation. Only things which are superficial and altered ego built can and will eventually be challenged and fall apart. You must look deep into self and question your self-doubts. Many of you think you are not very good, and you base this self-judgment often upon an ideal of goodness, which may or may not be real. And most of you compare yourselves continually with others, the way you look, behave, respond, and live. Now please understand this conditioning which you have each adopted in various degrees. Let me example precious little Dorothea. This one spent many years from her early teenage years until recently thinking herself not attractive enough. And I asked her, and I ask you, who do you allow to set standards of beauty for you? And why do you want to meet another standard? Is it truly a God-worthy standard? I will share with you that for years, as I monitored the most fragile esteem of Drew, she measured her goodness and acceptability of belonging on how her physical body and face looked to the world. Now this beloved child is so very beautiful, and it was only recently that she understood that her beauty is within her, and thus naturally radiates out of her. I example her for many, many women and men measure themselves only from the material illusion, and most often fail to know themselves and accept their own individual uniqueness as a contribution to the whole. The root of this sort of material vanity was discussed at length in Phoenix Operator Owner Manual, so I will not repeat therein. Now, does this mean that Drew will stop efforting to improve self and be a better person? No. You each have set ideals and goals for yourselves, and that can be very beneficial for your soul growth, as long as you are flexible and are willing to reevaluate your goals and ideals and perhaps make adjustments towards a more balanced perception of the ideal. When ones get in trouble is when they set a goal in just a certain way and refuse to adjust it or reevaluate it as circumstances change. Now, if the goal is based upon ego-centered fulfillment, it will accomplish the opposite. The reason is that ego-centered fulfillment usually requires defiance of God's laws of balance. Remember, your adversary knows his goal, world control, and has accomplished it to a great degree by adjusting his plans as necessary. Eventually, he still loses, for although he may trap a few million souls this time, all eventually return to God, and that includes him, one way or another. Setting an example. Any person who attains a level of leadership for others, be it parent, teacher, manager, coach, or government member, becomes himself an example which others will at least acknowledge and often effort to emulate. Leaders have much responsibility for their own actions and behaviors. A true leader is only successful in degree to the inner God-centered knowledge which he attains. And this is because a true God-centered leader always seeks to do the best for the whole, not just himself, and therefore makes more balanced choices and decisions. Now, on your place, I am not talking about perfection here. I am speaking about intent to achieve balance by setting, communicating, and acting on whole related goals. The leaders you admire most today for that which they have done have made many poor decisions in their past. The difference between a God-balanced leader and an egocentric leader is that the God-balanced leader has gleaned valuable knowledge and understanding because of his experiences and has searched for and found the better way. He is also most willing to acknowledge and seek to rectify his own errors. Simply put, he is responsible for his actions and decisions and carefully weighs the consequences of both. Now, Druthea, I'm telling her secret, admires Commander Hatton in a very special way. She feels him to be her father, for she has never had a father who met her ideals and needs on Earth Shan. Commander Hatton sets a very real example of wisdom, compassion, strength, and leadership, which Drew respects and honors and efforts to accomplish. Now, we find this to be so very precious because she has quickly developed such a high level of self-security and confidence, although she doesn't really see this in herself. So it is with self-judgment. You are each always much harder on yourselves in your imperfection. You gain a little knowledge and then are only able to see a vaster plane of what you don't yet know. So be it. Remember something, precious ones. Each of you is a developing leader, and you are only given responsibilities which you are capable of responding to. This does not mean you will always make the best choice in every situation. You must be willing to evaluate the perceived failures and recognize your errors in perception and action. And only by understanding the cause can you then make more balanced decisions in the subsequent circumstances which are presented with. This means self-honesty is the key, or you will remain in self-delusion and continue to make unbalanced decisions, which will reflect in your lack of success as a leader. Knowing your intent. Monitor your intent. Is it ego self-centered? Is it greed? Is it security? Is it love-based? Do you know the difference? If not, learn to evaluate your feelings. If you are afraid, why? If you are angry, why? And if you feel unworthy, why? If you feel threatened, why? When you are able to honestly ascertain the cause of your feelings, you will learn to know the difference between God-centered responses and decisions and ego-centered responses and decisions. Is it easy? Not at first. Remember, your desire for God balance will create the thought body for you to manifest if your sole intent is to serve Creator God of Light. Let us close this document. I trust that I have brought understanding to you of my precious brethren. And thank you, Druthea, for your service and allowed sharing of personal experiences. You ones will find that you share many of the same errors in perceptions, and you must never be ashamed of past experiences which have brought you to the level of understanding and growth which you have attained to this day. You cannot change any circumstance of the past. You can, through knowledge, gain of the experience. Choose to make better, more balanced choices in your now times. I am Sananda. Walk in peace and love, and know that the time is near for my coming. Salut.